Imagine this. You've just been transported to the past. Not the glamorous, gilded version full of kings and ballrooms, but the real past. The one with lice, mud, chamber pots, and endless discomfort. This isn't a dream. It's a nightmare wearing the clothes of nostalgia. And tonight, we'll walk straight through it, slowly, gently, so you can drift off before things get truly unbearable. Each age in history had its own brand of misery. While you're lying in a warm bed with clean sheets, spare a thought for the poor souls of the past. They didn't have memory foam. They didn't even have privacy. Their nights were filled with freezing air, hard surfaces, and the unmistakable scent of unwashed humanity. We're not here to relive heroic battles or dazzling romances. We're here to gently unravel the parts of the past that no museum would feature. The kinds of facts that make you grateful for modern plumbing and heated blankets. The dull, often disturbing routines that defined daily survival for the average person centuries ago. Let's be honest, you probably wouldn't last a day. Take medieval Europe. It sounds exciting in fairy tales, but the average peasant's reality was far from charming. The food was often spoiled, water questionable, and your shoes, if you had any, did little to protect against freezing mud. But you'll hear more about that soon. In ancient Egypt, beneath the pyramids and gods, laborers toiled in blistering heat, their sweat mixing with desert dust. Even if you were rich, the perfume couldn't cover the smell of rot that hung in the air. And heaven forbid you upset a priest. Rituals for appeasement weren't always gentle. Then came Victorian London, draped in fog and soot. Chimneys belched filth, streets overflowed with sewage, and a good night's sleep might be interrupted by rats, disease, or someone mistaking your alleyway as a toilet. Sounds dreamy, right? We'll be moving slowly through these stories, like a lantern flickering through time. No need to stay alert. In fact, it's better if you don't. Just let each fact, each soft-spoken tale, lull you deeper into slumber. If you wake up halfway through and hear something about Viking outhouses, don't worry. It's not a nightmare. It's just history. Tonight's journey isn't about scaring you. It's about comforting you. Because as you listen to the trials of those who came before us, your blanket will feel a little softer, your pillow a little fluffier, and your life just a bit more luxurious. So, take a deep breath. Let the past unfold around you. And remember, the only thing you have to survive tonight is staying awake long enough to hear how much worse it used to be. Before we dive in, think about the things we take for granted. Toothbrushes, painkillers, thermostats, antibiotics, light switches. Now, remove every single one of them. You're starting to understand the basic discomfort of historical life. A toothache in the 1300s wasn't just painful, it was potentially lethal. A winter draft wasn't annoying, it was life-threatening. And as for nighttime entertainment, you had candles if you were lucky, and shadow puppets if you were creative. Let's not even get started on hygiene. Baths were rare and often shared. Public bathhouses doubled as social clubs and rumor factories, but the water wasn't exactly clean. You didn't smell like lavender. You smelled like life, unfiltered, sweaty, and occasionally infectious. Your clothes weren't soft cotton blends. They were itchy wool, often infested with fleas, underwear, optional deodorant, invented only in the loosest spiritual sense, often involving herbs stuffed in uncomfortable places. Even the wealthiest couldn't escape the reality of bodily discomfort. Only close your eyes and imagine nightfall in a medieval village. There's no electricity, no heating, no walls that do much to stop the wind. You're not in a private room. You're sharing a one-room cottage with your entire family, and possibly the chickens too. Privacy isn't a concept. It's a modern luxury. You sleep on straw, stuffed into a sack, if you're lucky. More likely, it's just a pile of old reeds on the floor. There are no sheets, no blankets, just a coarse woolen covering that hasn't been washed since last winter. The smell? Earthy. And not in the charming, organic way. The air is frigid. Your breath forms little clouds in the dark. The walls are made of wattle and daub, and wind whistles through the cracks. You try to huddle closer to the fire, but the fire's out. It burned through the last of the wood hours ago, and gathering more in the dead of night risks wolves, or worse, being mistaken for a thief. You're not alone. Lice crawl under your collar, fleas bite your ankles. Bedbugs live in the wooden frame of what passes for a bed. Everyone stinks. Everyone. Soap exists, but it's expensive, and water is cold and possibly contaminated. Washing is a summer activity. Winter is survival. The sounds of night aren't peaceful. Your father snores like a dying bear. Your sister grinds her teeth. Someone farts and pretends it wasn't them. Outside, a pig screams. Is it giving birth? Is it being stolen? No one knows, and no one gets up to find out. You pull the wool closer around your head and hope for morning. Nature calls, but there's no bathroom. There's a bucket in the corner, used by everyone. It's already full, and it smells like it. If you're brave, you can go outside, but there's no torch, and the moon is hidden. You fumble with the latch, step out barefoot into the frozen mud, and pray you don't step on something worse. You try to sleep again, but you itch. Your skin prickles from the bugs and the cold. You shift slightly, and the straw crackles. Your brother mumbles in his sleep, and then whimpers. Maybe he's dreaming of food. You haven't eaten much today. A bit of turnip stew, maybe bread, if you were lucky. Hunger keeps you light on your feet and heavier in your thoughts. This is not a nightmare. This is every night for most people for hundreds of years. So when you pull your duvet up tonight, remember the medieval peasant. Remember the straw, the cold, the shared air, the fleas, and the endless fatigue. And smile, because you've already won the lottery of sleep. Let these uncomfortable truths soothe you. Let the thought of communal chamber pots and frozen toes make your pillow feel softer. You're not there, you're here. In a time where even insomnia is better than the alternative. And if you're still awake, worry not. We still have ancient civilizations to visit. They don't get any cozier. And sleep schedules, forget it. Medieval people didn't sleep like us. They often followed segmented sleep, 2 chunks broken by a period of wakefulness called the watch. In the middle of the night, you might wake up naturally, sit by the embers, whisper prayers, or worry about wolves scratching at the door. If you're noble, maybe you write a letter. If you're a peasant, you might just stare into the dark and wait for sleep to return. Clocks don't exist for you. Time is measured by how much wax remains on a candle, or the now let's drift into the dry heat of ancient Egypt. Not the golden pyramids and Cleopatra fantasies, but the reality of sand in your sandals, sweat trickling down your spine, and the constant pressure of gods watching your every move. It's night and you're not royalty, you're a worker. Maybe you've spent the day hauling stones for a tomb that won't even carry your name. Or maybe you're a servant, scrubbing limestone floors for someone who thinks your name is Hey You. Your clothes are simple linen. Sounds breezy until you realize linen doesn't stop dust. It just holds it closer. Your skin is burned from the sun and scraped from your labor. There's no lotion, aloe if you're lucky, but more likely just a shrug from your supervisor and an extra shift tomorrow. You live in a mud brick home, hot by day, cold at night. There's no mattress. You sleep on woven reeds, flattened by years of bodies before yours. There's a pillow, sort of. It's a carved stone block. Good for your neck, they say. Keeps your head elevated. Also make sure you don't forget you're replaceable. Perfume was everywhere, but don't let that fool you. Scents were a mask. People used cones of fat on their heads, scented with myrrh or lotus. It melted throughout the day, releasing fragrance. But underneath, sweat, dust, and the subtle note of goat. Water is precious, bathing is rare, cleanliness is godliness, sure, but only for the gods. You wash with a cloth, and not every day, and always downstream, always. Insects don't sleep. Mosquitoes sing their nightly songs. Beetles crawl across your wall. If you've got a cat, it helps, but the cat is also sacred, so it doesn't answer to you. If it leaves, you thank it. If it stays, you live in its favor. Your nights are filled with quiet prayers, to Ra, to Isis, to anyone who might help you get through another morning. You dream of food, figs, dates, and wine. In reality, it's beer made from old bread and whatever grain they didn't store for the nobles. Still awake? Then let's go deeper, because comfort wasn't expected. Suffering was part of balance. If you were born low, you stayed low. The stars were too far, the gods too silent. Your window, if you have one, is a hole in the wall, covered with a woven mat. It lets in more dust than air. You're not cooling off. You're just hoping it doesn't collapse tonight. So when you think of Egypt, don't picture Cleopatra in a milk bath. Picture a cracked heel, a back sore from bending, and the smell of incense barely masking the scent of human effort. And yet, somehow, people smiled. They played music. Children laughed. Even in the dust, there was life. Let this ancient discomfort rock you gently. Know that your sheets are cleaner than a pharaoh's, your air cooler than a noble's hall, and your sleep, uninterrupted by jackals or sandstorms, is richer than any scribe could describe. Sleep, when it came, was more a pause than a refuge. You didn't stretch out, you curled up, knees bent, trying to conserve what little warmth the bricks had held from the sun. Sounds outside your home reminded you that others were awake. Guards patrolling temple grounds, wild dogs howling at the moon, and distant drums announcing a birth or a burial. You weren't scared of burglars. There was nothing to steal, but you feared illness. A fever could take you out faster than any enemy. There were no antibiotics, no doctors as we know them, just herbal poultices, whispered chants. Let's now drift across time and fog into the murky streets of Victorian London. You've likely imagined it. Gas lamps flickering through the mist, gentlemen in top hats, ladies with parasols. But when the sun sets, the romance fades, and what's left is soot, stench, and silence. You're not a noble. You're not even middle class. You're poor, living in a narrow alley called a rookery, packed shoulder to shoulder with strangers who snore louder than the trains that run above your head. Your bed, maybe a straw mattress, maybe just boards. You rent it by the hour, not the night, and someone else used it minutes ago. You don't ask who. The sheets haven't been washed this season. Maybe not ever. The air is heavy with coal smoke. It seeps into your clothes, your lungs, your dreams. Breathing deeply isn't refreshing, it's gritty. Every inhale reminds you of chimney soot, of industry, of the thick black fog that settles over everything. Water. You fetch it in a bucket from the pump down the street, praying it's not contaminated. Cholera lurks in the drains. You don't brush your teeth, they're gone. A dentist costs more than your rent, and you've learned to chew with your molars or go hungry. At night, the silence is eerie. It's not the silence of peace, but the silence of fear. You listen for footsteps, hoping they pass. Crime lives in the corners. Policemen are few and more feared than trusted. You sleep in layers, jackets, scarves, anything to block out the cold. The fire costs money. Most nights, there isn't one. You huddle close to another body, not out of love, but out of sheer necessity. Warmth is warmth. The walls are thin. You hear arguments, coughs, the clatter of someone dropping a chamber pot. The floorboards above you creak with the steps of people still working. Seamstresses sewing late into the night, children counting matches, men drinking away their pennies. Beneath your building is a sewer. You can smell it. London's pipes are new and flawed, and waste doesn't always go where it should. Sometimes it comes back up, sometimes it floods. You wake up damp, and it's not rain. Your dreams? If you have them, they're short. Your body's too tired to invent stories. Sleep comes hard and ends early, interrupted by the shriek of carts, the banging of boots, the cries of vendors starting their day before dawn. Yet somehow, people endure. They whistle on their way to work. They read penny novels by candlelight. They tell jokes, share crusts, and give names to rats. Because even in the dampest corners, humanity clings on. So as you lie there, clean and safe, let the shadow of Victorian London lull you. Your room doesn't smell like coal, your sheets haven't been shared with strangers, and your pillow, unlike a borrowed coat, is truly yours. Close your eyes and thank the past for all it gave and all it left behind. And then there's the smog, what they called London fog. Poets romanticized it, but you knew better. It wasn't just mist, it was coal dust, soot and sulphur. It turned your handkerchief black and your lungs grey. Some nights, it was so thick you couldn't see your own feet. People got lost in it, literally. Some never came back. You might wake coughing, your chest tight. There are no inhalers, only boiled water with herbs, maybe some vinegar. If it doesn't help, you stay home and lose a day's wage, or worse, your job. On Sundays, if you're lucky, you go to church. Not just for faith, but because it's now. We drift across the seas to feudal Japan, a world of samurai, rice fields, and rigid rituals. The sun has set, and you're in a wooden house, barely insulated, surrounded by silence so deep it feels sacred, and sometimes threatening. You're not a warrior, you're a farmer, maybe a merchant. Your home is a single room with tatami mats and paper walls. Privacy, none. The walls hear everything, and so does your neighbor. There is no bed, just a futon laid directly on the floor. Your pillow is a small wooden box, sometimes padded with rice husks. It's supposed to align your neck, but mostly it reminds you not to toss and turn. You've eaten rice, maybe miso soup if you're fortunate. No desserts, no snacks. Food is simple and seasonal. There's no fridge. You eat what's fresh or what's been fermented until it's sour enough to bite back. Bathing is ritual. You scrub outside the tub, then soak, but the water is shared. It's hot, yes, but it's also reused. You go in clean, but never first. There is always someone before you, and always someone after. Outside, the village sleeps. The silence is complete, but your ears pick up everything, the rustle of bamboo, the creak of floorboards, the whisper of wind against the shoji screens. You were told ghost stories as a child. Now you wonder if they were warnings. You sleep lightly, not from choice but necessity. Night watchmen walk the streets, tapping their sticks to ward off fires, and thieves, but if they tap too long in one place, you worry. What did they see? Your family sleeps around you, breathing in harmony. One cough, one snore, and everyone shifts. You can't afford to wake them. You can't afford to be awake yourself, but sleep, when it comes, is thin. A veil, not a blanket. You dream of spirits, Uri, pale women with long black hair and no feet. They visit the restless. Are you restless? You tell yourself no. You tell yourself you are safe. You pull the futon higher and try not to breathe too loudly. You remember to bow before sleep, to the gods, to your ancestors. You whisper a short prayer, not for fortune, just for rest. Still awake? Then picture this. In the summer, there's no breeze. In winter, no fire. The paper walls let in cold like a welcome guest. You layer kimono after kimono, but your toes still sting. You wish for heat and settle for stillness. Let the quiet of this ancient world surround you. The tatami beneath you, the rice husks under your neck, the weight of tradition in the air. And as you drift, remember, you are not there. You are warm, unseen by ghosts, untouched by winter air. Let feudal Japan recede like mist on a mountain. Tomorrow, we enter the noise and neon of a different ancient empire. But for now, just breathe. If you are a woman, your sleep is shorter still. There's work to be done before sunrise. Cooking, mending, preparing rice. There's no alarm clock, only the rooster and your mother's voice. You move quietly so as not to disturb the men. You worry, perhaps, about your husband's service. If he is samurai, he may not return. If he does, he may bring honor or dishonor or silence. Each one has its own weight. There's no light switch to flip, just oil lamps that must be watched. One spark, and your home becomes a memory. So you extinguish it with care, and the night takes over. Sometimes, if the moon is bright, you see. Now, we wander into the eternal city, ancient Rome, the empire of marble columns, crowded forums, and surprisingly loud nights. You might think that ancient means peaceful, but in Rome, even darkness had a pulse. You're not a senator. You're not even a merchant. You're a laborer living in an insula, a cramped apartment block stacked like stone honeycombs, 5 stories high. If you're lucky, you're not on the top floor, where water doesn't reach and ceilings collapse with rain. Your room is shared, with family or strangers or both. Privacy is fiction. Walls are thin. Conversations travel like rumors, fast and uninvited. Your bed is a shared mattress, stuffed with hay or rags. Sheets are rare. You sleep in your tunic or under a borrowed cloth. If you're poor, you sleep near the hearth, if your building even allows fire. Many don't. Too risky. Fires spread like gossip in Rome, fast and destructive. Outside, the city doesn't sleep. Carts roll over cobblestones, horses clatter past, tavern songs drift up from alleys. Somewhere, a couple argues. Somewhere else, someone is vomiting. It's not poetic, it's just Rome. Your neighbor snores, the baby cries. A dog howls. The street beneath you echoes every sound. You press a cloth to your ears and hope for silence. It doesn't come. Chamber pots are used liberally and emptied dangerously. Romans throw waste from windows with a shouted warning. If you're not careful, midnight strolls become unpleasant surprises. Air thick with smoke, sweat, and street food. The scent of spiced wine clashes with fish sauce and unwashed feet. If you're lucky, a perfume merchant lives nearby. If not, you breathe through your sleeve. Sleep is a challenge. You shift on the straw, scratching at mosquito bites. You feel the heat of bodies nearby. The windows are small and high, for security, not breeze. There's no fan, no relief. And yet, life thrives. Poets write verses. Lovers whisper in corners. Children dream of the games in the Colosseum. Not peace, but presence. You think of the aqueducts, but your building has no water. You fetch it in jugs. If the public fountain's open, if the line isn't long, if the water isn't red, your dreams are fragmented. Half-wakeful visions of debts unpaid, meals skipped, footsteps in the hallway. You wake with a jolt, unsure if it was real. It doesn't matter. You still have hours left in the night. You turn to your side, listen to the heartbeat of Rome through cracked plaster. There's no escape from it, only surrender. You let the noise become rhythm, the stench, memory, the discomfort, history. And now, as you rest safely centuries away, let the chaos of ancient Rome be nothing but background hum. Let the cracked bricks and loud alleys dissolve behind closed eyes. You're not on a shared floor. You're not under straw. You're not in Rome. You're here, still, quiet and safe. Sometimes you hear footsteps on the stairwell, not slow, but urgent. Someone moving with purpose. Maybe a thief. Maybe someone coming home late from the bathhouse. You don't get up. You don't ask. If you're a woman, sleep is a negotiation with chores, with expectations, with the needs of everyone else. There's no such thing as rest, only pauses, brief, and rarely your own. If you're elderly, sleep is interrupted by pain. The joints creak like the wooden beams above you. You whisper prayers to Jupiter or to Fortuna, not for wealth, just for relief. The city has no curfew, no quiet hours. What ends one night spills into the next. Vendors prepare bread before dawn. Debtors pace their rooms. Street philosophers argue now we slip into shadows. The Middle Ages again, but this time not as a peasant. You're a killer, a blade in the dark, a whisperer of death. But don't expect luxury. Assassins don't sleep well. You live on the edge of society, of sanity. Your bed is a bundle of cloth in a rented room that changes weekly. No one knows your real name. You tell lies as casually as others breathe, because trust in your world is fatal. The floor beneath your blanket creaks. You memorize the sounds, so if one changes, you wake. Every night is a risk. Every movement could mean discovery. You don't sleep. You hover at the edge of unconsciousness. You've been trained to listen, for footsteps, for blades sliding from sheaths, for silence that lasts too long. You've slept in dungeons, cellars, stables. You've faked death to escape it, and tonight you rest with a knife under your pillow, always. The room smells of damp wood and sweat. A candle sputters low. You never sleep in full dark. You've seen what crawls in that kind of black. You sleep facing the door, always, never by the window. A crossbow bolt can travel far, and you've made enemies worth the effort. Your dreams are short and sharp. Faces of people you've forgotten how to care about, tasks you might have failed, a wrong name, a missed detail. The mind doesn't rest, it replays. Your meals are cold, bread, salted meat, and suspicion. No tavern chatter, no friends, just notes passed under tankards and gold weighed without counting. You don't drink. You don't trust food made by others. Poison is a tool you know too well. Even tea is suspect. If you're ever warm, you're worried. Comfort is a trap. If you're relaxed, you're vulnerable. So you stay tense, tired, but alive. The wind outside howls. You hear it twist between beams. You've mapped escape routes in your head. Down the back stairs, over the fence, through the alley. 3 minutes, no more. You've never been caught, but you've come close. Close enough to know what iron feels like around your wrists, what fear smells like from the other side. Still, sleep comes eventually. Not peace, just pause. The body's refusal to continue, a mercy of nature even for killers. And in that moment, quiet, weightless, forgetful, you are almost human. But morning is no relief. It means new orders, new risks, new eyes to avoid. You wake not with a yawn, but with a blade in your hand, checking shadows. You've chosen this life, or maybe it chose you. Either way, rest is rare, and dreams. They belong to softer souls. Tonight, though, you don't have to watch the door. You don't need to hold the dagger. The only shadows here are words, so let them settle. Let the past's paranoia dissolve into present peace. No targets, no whispers, just sleep. You sleep with your boots on, not because it's comfortable, but because you might need to run. Lace takes time you might not have. The soles are worn, but familiar. Like everything else, they're part of your escape. There are times you lie still, eyes closed, pretending to sleep so convincingly you nearly believe it, until a floorboard creaks and your breath catches. That's how close sleep is. Always interrupted, always conditional. Sometimes you think of who you were before, if there was a before, a village, maybe, a brother, maybe, but you don't stay there long. Nostalgia is a vulnerability, and you've seen what happens to the sentimental. Even the birds outside seem quieter. They know not to, and now we return from the timeline of discomfort, from fleas and soot, stone pillows and fear, from centuries that looked better in paintings than they felt in real life. What do they all have in common? Rest was rare, comfort was fleeting, and sleep, sweet, essential sleep, was often stolen by cold, noise, or survival. If you've made it this far, you've traveled through straw beds, chamber pots, fireless nights, and walls too thin to separate you from the world. You've shared your sleep with strangers, with insects, with ghosts. You've seen what it meant to close your eyes in eras where safety was not guaranteed, and silence could be dangerous. There was no sleep hygiene, no white noise machines, no blackout curtains or melatonin, just instinct, just exhaustion. Just hope that no one woke you too soon or too violently. And still, they endured. People sang lullabies. They prayed to gods. They built cradles from reeds and laid down their tired heads wherever they could. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. So tonight, as your room settles into quiet, take one last breath of gratitude. Your sheets are clean, your door locks, your pillow is soft. You don't need to listen for assassins or rats. You don't have to count footsteps or fear the chamber pot. You live in the most comfortable moment in human history, and that's not something to feel guilty about. It's something to savor. So let the echoes of history fade. Let the lice and lanterns, the whispers and watchmen dissolve into your mattress. You're not in medieval France, not under Egyptian stars, not beside a Roman alley. You're here, you're warm, and you're free to sleep. And maybe, just maybe, you'll never complain about your mattress again. But if you do, remember, someone once slept on stone and called it blessed. Close your eyes and drift. And if you like this journey, don't forget to support the channel. Subscribe, like, and share the peace. Good night. Consider the blessings that surround you. The temperature in your room can be adjusted with a button. Light disappears when you ask it to. You decide when the night ends, not the sun, not the cold, not the whisper of danger outside a paper-thin door. There is no need to boil water, no need to barter for warmth, no need to share a mattress with someone whose name you never learned. You have space, you have silence, you have time, and you have this moment, unfolding slowly like the soft edge of a dream. A world free from chamber pots, shadowy footsteps, and straw that crunches when you roll over. Free from fleas that bite in the dark and walls that echo every secret. Yes, history is fascinating. It's rich, strange, and full of stories, but it is also hard, harsh, heavy, and now that you've walked those centuries, you know, nostalgia lies. The past wasn't built for rest. It was built for endurance, for repetition, for surviving just one more day. But you get to rest without fear. You get to close your eyes, knowing no one will shout from the street or kick open your door or light your building on fire because someone forgot to bank the coals. Your dreams tonight are uninterrupted by hunger or superstition. You don't need charms or rituals to feel safe. You don't need to listen for rats in the rafters or whisper to gods for mercy. All you need is to let go. The past will keep its secrets. Its ghosts can wait. You've seen enough for one night. And if you've made it this far, if you're still awake, or if you've just now stirred from sleep, I hope this journey brought you rest, reflection, and maybe even a little gratitude. History doesn't need to shout to teach. Sometimes it just needs to whisper. If you enjoyed this gentle walk through the less glamorous corners of the past, consider supporting the channel. Tap that like button. Subscribe if you haven't yet. It helps us tell more stories, more softly, to more people like you. And if you'd like to revisit this world again tomorrow night or next week, we'll be right here. With new voices from forgotten places, told slowly, kindly, sleepily. Good night, and thank you.